So it requires lots of courage. You know, just before prelims, like 2-3 months before prelims, if you have to be part of this program, you have decided to invest most of your time in improving your writing skills rather than solely focusing on prelims preparation. So it requires a clear decision making, some amount of courage also, because people are so much scared about prelims that from January itself they start only focusing on prelims. So, however, it also shows that you are actually looking at the exam as one complete integrated unit rather than looking at only prelims, mains, and interview separately, right? So that attitude is very important. So that is what this core batch, the super core batch, seeks to achieve through all the tests that we are doing here. So far, how many tests you have written? So far, how many tests you have written? Seven. Seven mains test, and okay. So before this, did you write any tests? No. So how was your experience? Good. So you were able to complete how many questions in a test? 12 out of 20 questions. Out of 15, right? It is 15 questions and 2-hour test. Okay. What about you? 12 questions. You? Mm-hmm. 3-hour test. What about you? Around 12. So out of these 12 answers, out of 15, with how many answers you were satisfied? Around 8. You? Satisfied with all 12? You cannot complete the paper also, right? Okay. So out of 12, 8 is good. See, what I usually suggest is that, especially in the beginning, don't try to complete the paper, right? Even if you have already prior writing practice, and even if you don't have any writing practice, like for the first time you are exposed to this kind of exercise, don't try to complete the paper. So instead, out of 15, have the target of say like 8 to 9 answers. So try to write the most qualitative answer, the most relevant, which exactly meets the demand of the question with, s- you know, holistically, all the components of the answer in place, right? So that you are completely satisfied. Now, what happens when you are trying to complete the paper, unknowingly your answers get diluted. So I think if you have got 1 or 2 evaluated copies, you will know that out of 12, your marks will be like in the range of 3 to 4, right? So very rarely you will get 5 or 5 plus, right? That's what happens. So instead, aim for 8 to 9 and try to get 5 plus marks. If these are 10 markers, right? If it is 12 markers, 15 markers, right? 15 markers, around 7 to 8 marks. So this mindset is important, chasing quality over quantity in the beginning. This quantity is, it will improve with practice, right? So if you keep repeatedly giving this test, your hand, your mind, your eyes, the physical aspect of it will improve, the thinking will improve. So you will be able to write more answers by default, right? Now the quality, we cannot ensure it will improve, right? The quality of answer always depends on your involvement, right? Your presence of mind at that moment, and of course your preparation, number of times revisions you have done. But that will not improve if you are focused only on writing more and getting more marks. So this is number one thing that you must compulsorily take care while writing the core test, because there are 30 plus tests, like around 33 tests, right? So your speed will definitely improve, or at least it will improve to the extent that from where you can take off immediately after prelims. So for example, if somebody is not doing any answer writing right now, they will need minimum 2 to 2.5 months to start writing 17 to 18 answers out of 20 with regular writing practice. But for you people, it will be less than 1 month, right? So that is a big advantage because the time you are saving during that time you can invest either in optional, improving ethics or essay, something like that. But that is why this is very important, right? At the same time, the prelims part of the preparation. So what I usually recommend, even when you are part of the super core, so people who usually try to be part of the super core are somebody who has written main previously, or somebody who has completed optional subject totally, right? And somebody who has completed their syllabus thoroughly. Because you have seen the timetable, every once 2-3 days we have a test. So somebody who is going to read it for the first time cannot manage it, right? So this brings us to the point that knowledge is not an issue with you people, right? Of course, it's a continuous process, but with respect to majority of the syllabus. So you have to balance your preparation in such a way that half day should be given for the core batch. So another half day, in the sense half of the time for which you are spending your time for preparation should be for prelims. So mainly CSAT and solving MCQs, right? So that MCQs you can align it with your super core based timetable. So which is your next test? The syllabus? Full and GS1, right? Like how many days you have? GS2, full and GS2, going very fast. Hmm? Fine. So after that GS3 will come, right? Let us say GS3 test 1 is about basics of Indian economy, right? So you solve at least 500 to 600 MCQs on that economy part. If there is only 2 days or 3 days gap, got it? So along with preparing from mains viewpoint, you also solve these prelims MCQs, right? Now just because you are focused only on improving your answer writing skills, never ignore this MCQ part, right? This will help you when you're preparing for mains and writing answers regularly. It will help you understand and also remember concepts, in depth. Basically, you are trying to remember, 150, 200 words of content, right? But when you are solving at the same time, complementing that with solving 200, 300 MCQs, you are going to get so many facts and examples because there are so many dimensions one can ask questions in prelims. On GDP calculation itself, they can ask 5 to 6 variety of questions, right? Or even more than that. But here you have read one formula about GDP uh, calculation. So we have asked, like, in prelims, comparing it some other method, some previous method, something which you can think about it. So that will complement in improving your dimensions in your mains answer also. And this in-depth what you are reading in mains will help you guess better in questions where there are like 4 to 5 statements, right? So people get confused, you end up with 2 or 3 statements which you cannot eliminate completely. So both actually complement well. I have been suggesting like past 3-4 years that everyone must do some amount of answer writing till the month of April in order to do well in present prelims pattern. So present prelims pattern is not completely objective, right? So though there are objective questions, there are certain questions which require you to infer, apply some wide logic, or sometimes so what you have read in mains will come into picture here. So that if it has to work, mains answer writing must be part of it. And I have been telling in previous sessions also, those who have the habit of writing secure answers, at least like 1 year before prelims, or 6 to 8 months before prelims, are scoring well in prelims, right? So anyway, I think even if you haven't done secure, there are compilations. You don't have to read it, but as part of super core, I'm sure like you are going to write so many answers and you'll be revising them. So keep doing that. So don't think that something you are doing at the cost of prelims. That writing tests and focusing on mains, it is going to help you. It's just that you have to complement it with MCQ practice, right? Both CSAT and like there are students, like some students who are doing like 200 questions per day in GS. There are people who are doing, right? And some people are doing like 50 to 60 CSAT questions So I suggest like at least 30 to 40 minimum every day. Some people are doing double that number. Okay. So are you afraid of CSAT or no? What about you're scared of CSAT? You're not scared of CSAT. Why? CSAT you cleared. Okay. By what margin? Okay. Ah, okay. You're getting most of them right. But again, don't take anything for granted, right? So this was the dialogue we used to hear a lot. Like last 3 years, like I'm an engineering graduate, so he said not an issue. It was not an issue at all till 2018. Okay, so now from 19 slightly it started. So 2021 it has reached its peak, that it has become a major issue. So I think the only thing that matters in CSAT is the speed. Otherwise, nature of questions are such that you know in your leisure time you will be able to solve them by applying formula or logic or whatever you have learned. So to improve speed again, the practice. I don't know, for some reasons people try to practice these questions only 1 or 2 months before exam. So my suggestion is every day, like around 50 questions. Then once in 2 days or once in 3 days, solve a full length paper coming to the classroom. Right. So if some of you near our Delhi, Hyderabad or Srinagar center, those are online, even they can also go to those centers. Right. Come to the offline center with full, you download, you get any full length CSAT paper, come to the class, get a OMR here and solve it in the classroom within 2 hours. Right. Never solve CSAT paper online or even GS paper also, the paper one. Right. Any mock test you are doing, except the daily thing which you are doing. So once in a, like twice a week, you should try to give at least full and GS papers from now itself. So those GS test you are giving as part of your, testing the knowledge. Right. Every day it is about learning. Out of 100 question, like 200 question, if you are doing, do all the 200 questions. Even if you don't know anything. So just try to apply some logic, some guesswork. But the full end test which you are going to give, so come to the classroom and give them. This is really very, very important. Uh, those who are accustomed to, used to giving only online, prelims mocks are suffering because its dynamics are entirely different. Giving in classroom has its own uh, requirements. So you have to get used to those requirements. Right. So apart from that, in the super core, uh, like people who used to be part of the super core are the one who go to interview in more numbers. So this has been the case like past like 8 years. Those who are doing answer writing even till April, I have noticed. So then if you clear prelims and then write mains examination, there is a very good chance that you will definitely go to interview. Right. So then again interview is a different game. There your performance, something else matters. But there is high probability that you will actually reach interview stage. So that advantage is there. And what about your exam centers? You consider yourself as a very serious player, don't write from Bangalore. You're from Karnataka, right? So that I can talk privately, like why. So, but go to different places where the competition is less, right? So, like if you're doing so much of practice here, I think Bangalore is something which has huge concentration of students who are writing so many answers here. For some reasons, UPSC says it has no relationship with this thing. Papers are shuffled and evaluated. But even then, I see some probability that some copies still getting clubbed together. Let's say you 10 people are writing from one center, right? So all the 10 people are part of the super core batch. Okay. And you have got Bangalore center and your roll numbers are like clustered and your bundle goes to one evaluator, right? So now if all of your answers are above average and decent, but according to you, that is the best answer. Now, if all 10 people have written some kind of similar content and competitive answers, so for evaluator it looks normal, right? My theory, I don't know, like if it has some value, but I am seeing that it has some effect. The results speak every year. It not with everyone, but some cases it has, because people whom I used to consider as the brilliant people, who used to actually score highest marks, who started writing from Bangalore center, they scored less. The same person, when he changed the center, they have seen huge jump in marks, right? So there is some correlation. Okay, so don't, again, there is nothing wrong in, right, going out of your comfort zone and trying, at least for that sake, like to explore new place, same question paper, same exam, right? So even if it doesn't have any logic, try to do this, right, instead of regretting later. Any questions? Yeah. So I'll tell you very briefly. So there are directive words. So question has a two part. So every question has two part. One is topic part and the directive part. So let's say the ongoing hijab row in the state of Karnataka is plot on Indian culture, especially its diversity and secular values. Discuss, right? This question will never come, might come, we don't know, right? Uh, so the topic part is the statement I gave, right? It's a blot on India's cultural ethos, especially secular heritage or diversity. And the word discuss is its directive word, right? So you have a topic in the question and there is directive word. So the directive word, as the name itself indicates, so it is directing you, right? So we have like Supreme Court directives. It tells government or some institutions to do something. So the directive word is actually giving you exact direction, like what to write in that answer, right? So you cannot write something that right? So you have to write what the directive word is directing in the context of the statement that is given. So there is word discuss, right? Directive word. There is analyze, there is comment, there is examine, and you can add critically to all of them. Critically discuss, critically analyze, critically uh, comment, critically examine, right? So and there are other words like explain, elucidate, hmm, uh, justify, assess. So these kind of directive words are also there. Now let us say the word is discuss. So in all the directive words, discuss is at the apex, right? So discuss is at the apex means the discuss expects you to bring every dimension of the answer, whether it is 150 word or 250 word. So those there should be an element of analysis, there should be an element of little commentary from your side and illustrations or justifications, right? So there must be at least, like, the question has two broad parts. So your answer should have at least 4 to 5 sub parts. Trying to bring all these, at least 40% of it must be analytical component, right? So this analytical component is also evident in the introduction. Yeah. So it is also evident in some parts of the body where while moving from one part to another part you are explaining. So in the conclusion, but introduction and conclusion always indicate your analytical bent of mind. You cannot just write one fact or definition and say that no, this is the introduction, right? So that is like discuss. Okay. So for example, for this answer, you have to say, you have to write the introduction. So you take a stance in introduction. Do you think really it is a blot, or this kind of debate or discussion is actually going to lead to new kind of thinking in the society or new social change, something like this. So then you give little background information, right? So not in terms of current affair, like like for example, in that religion, why this hijab is important and why do they consider, and another opposing view why they this thing. And now, is it another one part? Is it really plot something? So that part, right? So there your analytical 3-4 arguments you will give with example, saying it violates a certain part of the constitution, it violates certain Supreme Court or High Court judgment. So it violates certain cultural belief which is deep rooted. So it violates also some international human rights, some declaration, something like that. So you are giving. At the same time, then you say that, however, there are people. Again, this transition is important. Then say that why others do not think it is blot. Objectively, we have to put. So this part of the question must be answered in third person. So don't give it as your own opinion, right? Say that is what experts believe, or religious scholars believe, or something. So and then another part here in discuss, analysis, comment, this way forward thing must be there, right? Suggestion part. So never write way forward. These two words never write, right? For this particular question, it can be uh, you know you can use word according to the context. You can say uh, how to break the deadlock or something like this, right? And then you give like 2 to 3 your own input. Again, this here it is your analytical thinking is evident. Again, these shouldn't be obvious suggestions, cliched ones. Something your own thinking should be reflected, right? So the discuss has this this element which is not explicitly asked in the question, right? Analysis is more or less same, analyze, but here analysis has more weightage when they are explicitly asking you to analyze. So in the exam, this analysis will get reduced little, right? Let's say like 20%, just restrict to introduction and conclusion. In the body part, you don't have to give your opinions analysis, right? So in the commentary part, the entire part is your opinion. The body to top to bottom is analysis, right? So you are taking a stance and then you are justifying or illustrating that your arguments are correct or wrong, like your arguments are either in favor or against it. So that is another part. If critically is added, right? So to all these parts, so what does it mean? The word critically is forcing you to give both sides of the arguments compulsorily. So there it happens one question, for example, the one I said, but without word critically also, you have to balance. Just because it is only mentioned discuss, it doesn't mean that you don't have to balance. But in certain questions, you don't have to balance. If there is the Gandhian, principles, Gandhian ideology, Gandhian thoughts are irrelevant today. Comment or like discuss, right? So here you don't have to give both sides of the argument. You have to show only one side of the in favor of Gandhian thought, like how it is still relevant, right? You got the difference. So the directive word, these are important. Others like explain, elucidate, illustrate. So they are basically asking you to explain the concepts, explain the demand of the question with some suitable examples. So there is no place for analysis or anything. But my personal suggestion, irrespective of the directive word, ensure that at least 20 to 30% of your answer has this analytical component, right? Irrespective of the directive word, right? And I sincerely believe that UPSC gives these directives consciously, like with some thought behind it. It is not like random. But in the real exam, while writing answer, you tend to overlook that. But don't do that. Also, as a candidate, somebody who is writing, you can actually guide evaluator. For example, indirectly, uh, in essay you have that freedom, so we can analyze, we can use the word comment, discuss, and all. Here, if there is an opportunity, right, you show that the demand of the question is discussed. That is why you are discussing all parts of the answers. So how you will do? How will you do it? Maybe you can put a sentence, right? Let us discuss, or discussion about this issue or something, analysis of something based on the keyword. If it is examination of something, assessment, justification of something, right? So you're getting the point. In some part of the answer, maybe after one third of introduction definition, you can mention that, so that evaluator knows that you are conscious about the directive word as well. So we will be happy that this candidate is so much present in the examination, is mindful, right? He has presence of mind, like is not overlooking the demand of the question. So ultimately in the examination, what matters is whether you are meeting the demand of the question or not. Usually again, when you're not focusing on quality, people tend to write what they know more, right? So you forget the examiner sometimes while writing answer. You tend to, in a rush to fill the content, you try to write what you know everything, like what you know more, right? Overlooking the demand of the question. So never do that for any answer. So how do you ensure that you are answering according to the demand of the question? You use the exact words that are there in the question as your subheadings, side headings, right? As I said, another word like according to directive word, you can use that also. So create parts according to the demand of the question. So the question will have 2 parts, 3 parts, 4 parts, right? So use the words that are mentioned, make them visible, that you are not ignoring any part of the question. The next level is allocating weightage to these parts. That is very important. So weightage, sometimes the question says like, what do you understand by secularism? Do you think excess emphasis on secularism as a polarized Indian society today? There is a question something like that. Now you have to allocate weightage. So define secularism is like one third, right, or less than, slightly less than that. So 2/3 of the answer is for the second part. Now you don't have to write one page, entire page only on secularism and another page on, got it. So that is important. So you have to define, before defining you have to still give general introduction, even if the question begins with what, right? So you can, general introduction could be like a secular being cardinal value of our constitution, uh, as an polarized society. Instead it has brought people together and earned respect outside its boundaries or something. You can write one line and then define secularism, mention the relevant articles, like in one line also mention how it is different from the western notion of secularism, like, without explaining them, and then start answering if it has polarized in society or not, why people think it is polarizing. Okay. So that presence of mind where you apply and show that you are writing relevant answers by creating multiple parts, intelligently using the keywords. Sometimes even if the content is not so good, right, will still earn you better marks, right? So believe me, evaluators are more tired with nonsense answers, beating around the bush kind of answers, right? Some fake answers, like you don't know what is, how to calculate GDP, but you are inventing there right now, right? So you don't know one particular technology, that what is that missile that there was question, this India imported, no, those missiles, or what it is, not missile or aircraft, huh? S-400, huh? S-400. So many people are telling they didn't know. They are asking, the question is asking technical details of the S-400, right? You don't know the answer, you don't know. Just leave it blank. That part, right? Now don't try to be very smart and intelligent. Your guess may be right, right? It's not a prelims game here, right? So it may also be wrong also. If it is wrong and evaluator knows that you are writing something just to fill the pages or act smart, again believe me, it affects the entire paper. Dishonesty, right? So try to be honest. You don't know, that's it. You read, you answer it. you don't know, there will be another opinion component in the question. You can just answer that part B of the answer, rather than. So I believe this is one reason why we are seeing drastic, you know, reduction of marks in paper 1 and paper 3. Paper 2, you will know something about everything, mostly about, you have read so much Lakshmikant, quality books, current affairs is full of quality stuff you have read. So paper 3, there are questions like 3-4 questions which are very specific, and paper 1 there are 3-4 questions very specific. You either know or you don't know, right? So if you don't know, even then you are trying to answer them, it will have an effect. So in addition to that, as I have said, views also matter in paper 1 and paper 3, but I don't think it's a major issue. So I am not seeing huge impact of it. The third factor is lack of, not lack, inability to bring analytical component in these paper 1 and paper 3 answers. Little bit of, right? You make it completely factual, right? You write all the example facts, without explaining the context or why you are writing so many facts. So that will also have an impact. So these three are the important reasons. Number one reason is what? Hmm? So lack of analysis, little bit. Sometimes views are completely anti-government. And another reason I mentioned is trying to be smart, or like, you're faking your answer unknowingly. So these three will cause a lot of irritation, and the marks will go down. So apart from that, other factors that I mentioned, being relevant to the point, right, meeting demand of the question, even with not so good content, will actually get you marks. So I know people just writing skeletons, they are able to score decent marks, not extraordinarily good marks, but above, better marks than people who read so much, right? So then this part of, that presence of mind comes into picture. Like in that moment, you have to be involved, immersed, creative, sometimes imaginative, that you guide the evaluator. Again, here there is no dishonesty. At least you are understanding the demand of the question. You are guiding them. These are the demand of the question. So wherever whatever you are adding that much content, right? So, but many people, we come with little ego or insecurity or something. We tend to feel content. So assuming that, because our education system is like that. In university, you write more, you get more. At least in humanities, as far as I know, right? So very rarely they reward you for, being like what the demand of the UPSC. So there it's more about knowledge component. So that people bring into UPSC preparation also, thinking that evaluator will reward them. So it doesn't happen here. So people are carefully chosen for evaluation, and they are well read and well accomplished people. So you can never fool them. Okay. So that is where programs like Super Core, Core Batch, IPM come into picture, because they give you so much opportunity to be yourself, improve your skills. So you just have to be honest here. So use this opportunity to never miss a test, regularly write them, make mistakes in the beginning. So don't be afraid of making a mistake here. So then you will get the feedback. So question the feedback also, judge it. So if it is really relevant to you, immediately correct it and don't repeat that it next test. So it's a very big opportunity actually for you to, be very competitive in this examination. And as you know, answer writing plays a very important role. Its role is slightly decreasing because of uh, increasing importance for interview. But however, still you can have some advantage, especially in papers like essay and ethics, right? So never miss any ethics and essay papers. The more you write, the better you get, right? Especially at Insights, I'm very proud. Essay and ethics, we are able to really help students to get very good marks, right? So those who are regularly practicing, taking feedback, we are seeing very good marks. BAS 1, 2, 3 is again proportionate to your knowledge and the things I mentioned, if you can implement them. So overall, enjoy things, right? So don't Comment, yes, but again, my suggestion, overall suggestion is the try to be balanced. Like comment again depends on the nature of the question. If it is the certain beliefs or values or personalities where it is undisputed, right? So it is better to avoid both the sides. Like for example, the relationship that Ambedkar and Mahatma Gandhi had, for example. So people have strong opinion for and against. Like some say they had healthy, some say unhealthy. So as long as the facts prove, you can bring both the angle here without being offensive to anyone, without being disrespectful to anyone. But if it is about Ambedkar's view on caste something, right? So it is better to go with his views rather than use another counter argument, right? So comment, justify these things. The comment again, as I said, critically comment. You have to assume even if it is only comment. So better to give both sides, but never make it mechanical. That there is positive side, negative side. It should be organic. So you don't have to equally divide your positive and negative side, right? There may be like 90% positive and only 10% one counter argument is there. You mention only that much. Yeah, people have this tendency of dividing their answer into pro and con, positive, negative, merits and demerits into two divisions. So never make that. So precautions, again, I have heard the process is good in Jammu Kashmir. So out of 25, he is writing 21 answers. I think, uh, like how many days away from exam? 25 days? Around 20 days. No, not like 15 days. So we conduct I will test series at Insights. So people who write like 17 to 18 answers, even when the exam is just like 1 week away, right? They always end up writing 20 out of 20 in the real examinations. So if you are writing 21, I'm sure like you will easily end up writing 24 to 25, because again the dynamics are different. Like where you are writing, you may be writing in a test center or at home, but in the exam center something happens to you, like you pump up, you're more serious, and the importance of every second. So people tend to write more answers. Now what precautions to take right now? Course, like health is number one. With respect to answer writing, ensure that you have everything ready, like for quick revision. With respect to answer writing, what you need to take care is the same thing I mentioned. Are you writing these 2021 answers relevant according to the demand of the question? So you take care of that aspect. So if you are not doing that here, in the real examination, answer according to demand of the question. And always focus on the quality over quantity. So even when you cannot write like 25 out of 25, never worry about it. So it's okay to leave 20, 30 marks, but ensure that at least 15 to 18 answers are quality one in the examination. It applies for you also. So out of 20, don't try to write all 20 uniformly, right? I have calculated. If you write like 14 quality answer, you will still get 100 plus marks, right? Like 14 quality, let's say another like 4 or 5 not so good answers. Instead of writing 20 out of 20, you will actually get less marks if you write average answers in 20, right? Compared to better answers in 14 or like 15 maximum questions. So keep that in mind. So when you write examination, like don't be in a hurry to. So first choose those questions where you know better, but answer them within the time limit. Sometimes what happens, you take up a first question for which you have written already previously answers, content. So instead of writing it in 10 or 11 minutes, like 250 words, 11 minutes, that is the stipulated time. So people write 15 minutes, right? So you should never do that. So to avoid that, what I usually suggest, write one or two answer before your exam and then go to the exam, so that you have overcome that inertia or this problem where you write more stuff. So the hand and mind is little bit acclimatized. So as soon as you go, you can just continue writing. So these are the precautions. So other than that, yeah, another suggestion. So if you are still have one or two full length test, write them as per the exam. Like if there is 3 hour paper in the morning, 3 hour paper in the afternoon, just like UPSC. So we can visit our center in Srinagar and write two papers just like the real exam. Okay. So see, like if you're in the initial stage of preparation, that is good, right? So if you've already completed reading your basics and done your revisions, it is better to write without looking at any source, because see, these tests which we are doing, so there are two things that happen. Sometimes people, instead of writing for 1.5 hour, they take more time. Like instead of 2 hours, they take 10 minutes, 20 minutes extra in order to just write one extra answer and score more marks. That is wrong, because you are actually training your mind here, right? So why we are giving more questions in less time is that, so that you are training your mind in such a way that it adjusts to the speed that is required to write more answers, and the speed of thinking is also improved. So if you are giving that room, extra space, so you will never improve that. Secondly, when you are looking into certain source and trying to write, you are getting the content part, right? Relevant points you are getting from the source, but because you are not giving enough exercise to the mind, right? You are not forcing it to think from every dimension. In the beginning, it is not possible. I have seen, like, first time you are writing, what you do, you write most generic point, right? Immediately what comes to your mind. So slowly near the conclusion, most important points start coming, but again the page gets ended. Or after writing the answer, you start getting one or two point, you don't have space to accommodate. This has happened because you haven't done this exercise before. The more you start writing, you will start writing the most important point in the beginning, right? So again, this depends on whether you are, it has nothing to do with cheating or copying. So there are open book examinations and all, that also has its own merits. But coming to UPSC exam, because you are going to write so much without looking at any source in the exam, you have to train your mind in that direction. So that is a wrong strategy. So counter view must be there, depending on how many such views exist with factual support, with evidence. So we shouldn't invent them, right? So that should be there. But majority part in support. In essay, I suggest some topics you can completely go against also, right? So now, for example, let's say national education policy uh, is going to transform Indian education scenario, right? Of course, you have to write pro only. I'm just giving an example. You can write against also. That it has the potential to transform, but still it needs many things to be added or implemented or something. Throughout the essay, you can argue and counter argue, but you can go with that view also. The beginning in essay you can do, but in GS answer, so mostly first you justify, because they are asking you to, because there is a statement is given here, the topic is given, and then one or two counterpoints you should definitely bring. Fine. So all the best. So we'll be meeting again, like after few more tests. So do well in all the exams, but never ignore your prelims part unless you are focusing on 23 exam. If you're focusing on 23, don't even think about prelims. So try to completely immerse with mains related stuff. 12 sites. Yes, yes. 14 we were giving, now we are reducing it to 12. No, you have to write in less number of sites. No, 12 is better. So we also give 10 sites also before mains, but 12 I think is better. So you are again used to write in 14, suddenly when two sides are less, you will miss your conclusion. So my suggestion, if you are writing full length paper, first answer like 3-4 section A answers, right? And then answer all the case studies and then come back and complete the NA. Three section A answers according to time limit, like 7 minutes. So in 21 minutes, you answer 3 questions, and then you come back to case studies. You complete all case studies, giving like maximum 15 minutes per case study, right? And then you come back and complete the remaining around 10 questions. 10 questions. So that works. Never keep case studies to the end, because again many people are who are meeting after writing main, they are telling they missed 2 case studies, they missed 3 case studies, right? They were not able to complete with, good answer. So that problem will take place. Yes, yes. Hmm. So you are leaving space or? Hmm. Okay. So never worry if you are satisfied with, having met the demand of the question. So if your content has met the demand of the question, absolutely don't worry. You don't have to fill the space, right? So you be honest. Like you look into your answer, see if you have missed a dimension, then definitely the space given is adequate for 250 words. You should fill it. Like 70% of the points you write should be minimum justified. For example, let's say you are writing 10 points. So 5 points in the first part and 5 points in the second part. So there like 3 to 4 points should definitely have example. Here also 3 to 4 points, or like 4 points there and 3 points here. Good. Enjoy this. I mean, I envy you people. Nobody made us write like this. And writing is such a beautiful exercise. You so much work to mind. Like I'm tweeting, just to tweet like 3 4 line. I enjoy so much. Think and you write. Maybe nonsense, but I write something. It makes me feel good. So you people in and out, day in and write so much, uh, which you will actually remember. These things which you write as part of the exam, you'll remember for long term actually. So there lies your advantage, both in terms of retaining the knowledge and also improving skills related to various aspects of writing. There are so many advantages. It is just like how you look at the things. If you do it with sense of excitement, enjoyment, improvement will be even better. If you look at everything as a burden and tension, stress, anxiety, then you won't see proportionate improvements. About the mindset. You have one more question. Yeah, you ask. Don't hesitate. Hmm. Hmm. No, the thing is, we have so many students. Everybody starts asking offline. Won't be feasible. Okay. All the best.